Welcome to Life Will Be. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and I'm excited for today's episode. You know, I have been wondering and questioning a lot what is stopping me from living the life that I want to live? Who would I be if I really lived? You remember that statement or that question? Can I live? Can I? You can. I am claiming life for myself as well. In September, I was having a conversation with someone and I said something and I was like, "Oh, let me write that down." And so I did. And I shared it as part of my With Love Lydia Wednesday series or With Love Lydia. I was like, I got to share this because it sparked a new pathway conversationally with the person who I was speaking with. Then I needed to sit with this idea. And the idea was to lead by living. Now, the first thing that may come to mind for you is, are you talking about influence? No, I'm talking about authenticity and partly how that can lead to you being impactful and perceivably influencing others, but not as it relates to marketing, social media, or anything of that nature, but purely by your life being an example. One of the things that I've really been standing in is living and just being, okay? I know on the previous episode of Life Will Be, I talked about that, and I want to touch on that a little bit more because life is so big, okay? God is so big, incredibly magical, okay? It is truly a blessing that we get to get up in the morning and have new breath. There's many of us who believe with new days come limitless possibilities, right? Some say, as long as you got breath, you got options. I love that quote. I've heard a number of people use it before, and I'm just like, okay, they're right. I truly believe that. And that's why it is imperative that your life be an example, not only for others, but for yourself. I really believe because I woke up this morning that is evidence and proof that I have something else left to do today, if no other day. And right now, that is being in a moment with you here on Life Will Be. When I think about leading by living, I think about my daily habits and routines and what I have strived to be disciplined in so that I can have a full life, so that I can be happier. Something that I heard Dr. Judith Joseph say recently is that you have to schedule joy. And talk about resonant. I was like, wait a second. Why am I not following this woman? Why don't I know about her work and all these things? And I heard her on the Breakfast Club. And I was like, yes, scheduling joy. It's so interesting the things that we used to do in childhood, teenagehood, college. I guess in the times in our lives where we didn't have as much responsibility. And I'm over here generalizing. Maybe that's not you. Okay. So I'll speak for myself. But there were moments where I was extremely intentional about what my day would look like, right? Writing it down, all these things. I still am that way. But now I really have to make sure that I am living so intently that while there may be different interruptions or natural things that take place, I still have it on my calendar to experience life, to experience myself and others. Play, okay? Play, have fun, and do things that bring me joy. I had a really good weekend. I crafted. I went to this arcade and spent time with just people I really enjoy. And that was good. I had the party. Shout outs to Raquel, okay, on my calendar. And I hung out in Jersey, and that was kind of off the cuff, but it worked. But we were committed to it. And we had a great time. The laughter, the smiles, all those things brought me joy. Sitting, meeting new people, and also just going out and enjoying myself and playing. You have to schedule joy. Dr. Joseph, so on point when she said that. Okay, now let me personalize it a little bit for you. I think we all know people in our lives, regardless of our closeness to them, who don't look forward to the next day and they can't fully be present in the moment because there is no movement, no activity in their life. Are those people pleasant? Uh, okay, I'm leaning in. I took a pause because the answer typically is no. You probably said it with me. No, they're not pleasant people. And I think it is extremely important for us to often be thinking about that joy, that movement, that activity, and being intentional so that we can have motion, right? Okay. Look at me being hip. Have motion. But truly, we are, I'm not going to tell you what we are, okay? I'm going to let you find out for yourself. But energy is a very real thing. And I truly believe that my spirit needs the right energy around me. So when people have a spirit of Eeyore or they're just angry and so much life is happening to them and they can't experience the fullness around them or even create it, I'm like, oh my gosh, please get away, right? But that's where planning that joy comes in, right? It just really makes a difference, okay? And so that is one of the ways that I feel like leading by living is essential, right? I wrote some notes and I'm going to share them with you. I feel like I'm about to go into like a commercial. Like, are you just sitting at home on the couch watching TV? No, this is not a DeVry plug. Have y'all seen like the fact that that wasn't even like a real commercial and he shot it in a stadium parking lot? Okay, I digress. Fun fact though, right? Interesting. Shout out to for-profit colleges or not. Okay, so there is some research and I want to do a little bit more digging around this, but a lot of who we are can determine genetically. A lot of who we are genetically can determine how we live our lives. Some say 50%, and 10% is circumstantial, and 40% is about living intentionally. And when I think about that 40%, living in that margin fuels me and it really creates a sense of urgency. I remember working at Black Enterprise and seeing these printouts on the wall, and they said, have a sense of urgency. Some of them were in all caps in black, others were in all caps in red. And I was like, that is a lot of ink. It was nothing fancy, but I will never forget that because having a sense of urgency over your life, it'll take you places, okay? It truly will. You have to want it. You have to be timely. You have to measure things. No one can want for you more than you want for yourself. Having a sense of urgency and waking up with that fire, having that in you will set you apart. I believe that it will transcend circumstances and allow you to show up and experience life differently. Living in New York City for just about 10 years, I always pay attention to who's walking at what pace, where people are going, how they keep their time, and kind of the swagger that they have. I feel like people who have a sense of urgency have a different swag, a different confidence. I believe it's because they take the calling on their lives seriously. Now, some people are just hustling. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But then there are a tribe of people who really are committed to their purpose and they move different. It's so inspiring to witness. I like to think of myself as a part of that community, but it takes time, right? You have to know what you want. You have to have goals that are measurable, that are attainable, right? And it's okay to write down the plan. and shy away from it or blow it up sometimes. I was reminded of an old saying, but it is true. When you make plans, God will laugh at you. And I was like, you right. Okay. And I'm like, hold on. Don't slap your knee now, Big G. You know what I mean? But it be like that sometimes. Back to the main point. Have a sense of urgency about who you are, where you want to be, how you live, who you are around, and allow that to make room for you. A quote that I share often, and I heard it while I was listening to Think and Grow Rich by Dennis Kimbro, is a man who keeps his time is a man who keeps his word. And that right there was worth memorizing. It is something that I live by. It is something, after hearing it for the first time, I aspired to live by, because you can't have a sense of urgency and not be a good steward of your time. Being on time is everything. I remember being on set with someone and shadowing them, and this woman was meticulous about her time. I was just like, whoa. And talk about people who take the calling on their lives seriously. This woman is very much so that way. And we were in Ubers, Lyft, walking fast, ordering food, letting things sit to the side, needing to give it away because we had to be where we needed to be. And I was like, whoa, she is serious about keeping her time. And it impacts the way that people receive and perceive you as well. If you're late, if you're always 5 minutes behind and no one can rely on you to be where you say you are going to be, that diminishes what you are setting out to do, your reputation, so on and so forth. Now, I am someone who admittedly has been late. Okay? Ask my friends, ask the people I love. They'll be like, okay, yeah, it happens to the best of us. So I'm not telling you to create this anxiety or this anxiousness, this fear around being late or always needing to be 30 minutes ahead of schedule. But be mindful of what time you leave the house. The drivers know. Ain't nothing like somebody on your bumper because they could have left 5 or 10 minutes earlier. Hello. I've been behind the wheel, excuse me. That has been my reality as well. The other reality that I have lived in and keep at the forefront of my mind as I use it for fuel for that urgency is that I cannot afford to be late in life. So many of us have not had the same starting point as those who were born into certain privileges and ideal circumstances. Because of that alone, you cannot afford to be late. I cannot afford to be late in life. Now, being 5 minutes behind in life, I imagine can feel like a lifetime. And as someone who has had the fortunate experience of living a number of lives here on earth, I'm like, yeah, right. I've had so many instances where I have learned and relearned and been able to like, okay, no, I know better because of my commitment to being where I need to be and being on time. I think so many of us have had the experience of consequences, whatever they may have been, and missed out on something because we were late. Keep your time, keep your word. Okay. So now I wrote some other things down. When I think about living by design and having your life be an example, I also think practically as well. Try to be mindful of not just speaking like in metaphors. I don't be like, is this a riddle? Nah, this is real life. What up? Okay. But it's so important to be in conversation with people And it's one of the ways that we practice our negotiation skills, building community, our love ethic, and so much more. But tell people what you have going on, okay? Share what you are learning with other people, be it around finances, health, wellness, beauty, career, across categories. It is so important that you don't hoard what you know. That is how we grow. I should also throw in a caveat by saying you ain't got to put everything on the internet. I say that as I record a podcast that will be uploaded, right? But truly, there are some things culturally I think that we should gatekeep and keep to ourselves or whatever, because everything is not funny and everything is not for everyone else. But it is also important to use our lives as a platform, not to be performative. Look at me getting into it and hitting the mic. Not to be performative, but to really uplift one another with the information and the resources that we have. I often tell my mom, my sister, my girlfriends, my guy friends, and just loved ones about what I have going on. I'm like, hey, so I actually had my annual. And I love going to the dentist and getting my teeth clean, good deep cleaning. Have you heard of Tend and all these things? And you may be like, wait, what? How many people do you know who just don't go to the doctors? You sharing that you keep your appointments may be the encouragement that they need to go see about themselves. They may find the language in which you shared with them to have the conversation with someone they love who may be behind on their appointments. Life will be what you make it. And then, of course, there will be moments of ebbing and flowing and God having his way. Okay. But it is so important for us to be in conversation. I feel like our lives are a series of conversations that turn into experiences. I was reading The Secret and there was an excerpt by Lisa Nichols, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she had written that life is a series of thoughts. In the same way, I believe they're a series of conversations, right? Because in so many ways, we say what we think. But when we're in healthy conversation with one another, we're telling those stories, we're sharing our experiences, we're being intimate. That is trust building. That is loving. It is necessary. So have those conversations. It may be quirky, it may be uncomfortable, but remember the impact that you sharing with discretion, with wisdom, will have on others. What good is it to know and be the only one to know? I can't imagine that you would be satisfied in your relationships and your experience here in life having a wealth of information that you can't share. What is the return on investment? You sound poor to me. No, okay. I had written about leading by living, and I'd written some points down, right? So here are some other things that I'll share with you. Leading by living means not shying away from the calling on your life, allowing others to experience your faith, all things God, Mother God, Father God, and that'll turn some people off, and that's okay, right? But it's important to share what you believe with people. Maybe not everybody, right? But it is a big part of who I am. This is good right here. Don't be so moved or motivated by how you influence others and how that shows up. I'm going to just stick here for a moment because I'm talking about leading by living. And this day and age that we're living in is very odd to me at times. We are living in a time where it is so cool for everybody to be a little voiceover actor and do the same skits as every other person and repeat and talk in the same tone and all these other things. Now, I know we are creative people, right? And Black people, especially, and I think this is true for different ethnic groups and cultures and all the other things, right? But we have certain isms and little quirks and whatnot and these shared experiences. So there will be these similarities that I believe are innate and natural. There are other times when you see a ton of copy dolls on the internet and it is just annoying, right? And there's the experience of someone having an impact on someone and influencing them, and then that person doesn't give them credit, or you see that you have had an influence on someone and there's no conversation about it. And these people can be really close to you. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh. To all of those points, try your hardest to not be too moved by that. I know in the world of measuring and people making money off the internet that you want to be able to know the impact that you've had on others. But leading by leading with your life, right, authentically, does come with the reality that you will influence others. People will be drawn to you. And magnetism is a very real thing, but you cannot become so consumed by how your influence impacts others. I am someone who admittedly wrestles with someone being flattered by me so much that there is imitation. Oh my gosh, it makes my skin crawl. But as I say that to you, one of the things that I am working on is not being moved by how I may influence someone, and I think there's a difference. It's one thing for someone to say, oh, wow, you inspire me, and girl, look at this, or wow, and did you know, and because of you, and it's like, wow, that's incredible. Okay. How did that work for you? Not like, oh my gosh, did he, because it's none of your business. How you live your life is. All right. Another way that you can lead with your life is by accepting and believing that you can do hard things. What that means, accepting that you can be visible as well. How are you living? How are you living? I hope that it is intentional. I hope that it is in light, in love, in self-respect, and awareness. Life is real. It'll come at you fast. You know the quote, life be lifing. But how you choose to live is what matters. You have a choice. What are you going to do with the time that you have right now? Is your life going to be a gift to you? Is it going to be a gift to others? That's up for you to decide. I know I want to live freely and I want to live abundantly. My life is really important to me. It always has been, but if I'm being honest, surviving felt like that was more important. Now I'm like, how can I live? Live just large and in charge, baby, baby. Okay, that was so corny. Shout outs to the 90s. Okay, but seriously, life will be. And I hope that it'll be what you make it with intention. I'm going to leave you with the same thing that I left here at the end of this note. It is that I hope that you take a moment to reflect on how you can lead with your lifestyle and calling and find ways to be an example for others. You may not be a mentor, you may not be a sponsor, you may just be like, I'm figuring it out. And that's okay too. But while you get what you need along the way, allow your life to be an example for someone else and allow it to be evidence for yourself that God is faithful and that you are here for a reason. And it is for you to live abundantly. I am just so eager about where this podcast is going to take us. I have a number of guests who are lined up, but it was so important for me to break the ice and not shy away from taking center stage here as I got started again and getting back into my flow. The conversations that are loading are ones that are really going to be what I need, okay? What the guests need, and hopefully unexpected blessings and resources and tools and laughter and all the things you need, okay? Along your journey. I want to count it all joy. I want to count it all joy. I can't wait to see you on the next episode. And as always, be sure to follow Life Will Be by doing so on Instagram at Life Will Be Pod. I am at Lydia T Blanco across platforms, and this has been real. I hope you got what you needed and more if possible. Be well, y'all. Peace.